An article titled "If this continues, there really will be no Hungarians left in Transcarpathia" appeared in the Hungarian online publication Peter Szijjártó. It is a report on the alleged brutal mobilization and repression of Hungarians in the Ukrainian Transcarpathian region, as the publication claims.
They conduct censuses, hand out summonses and collect in the street, at the market, on the bus, in the kindergarten, at the press shop, even in Roma settlements, and they are already entering homes. There are rumors that the task is to recruit 10,000 people from an area far from the sounds of war. From an article in the online publication Peter Szijjártó.
As proof, the publication posts 3 photos showing people in military uniform on the streets and in cafes or in Transcarpathian towns. But it is worth noting that none of these photos show summonses being handed out. Although the publication claims the brutality of this process, it is difficult to be sure of the authenticity of these photos, whether they were handed out or just caught by the lens of a photographer. In addition, there is a lot of criticism of this publication on the internet. Open sources write, quote, "The editors of Peter Szijjártó are paid journalists of the government and live off ministerial commissions, or that the portal is supposed by payments from the Fidesz faction." The leader of the Fidesz party is Viktor Orban, the current Hungarian Prime Minister, who is in his 4th cadence. He is known for his close ties with Moscow, and he strongly opposes any EU restrictions and sanctions against Russia and is interested in cooperation with Russia, in particular in the purchase of Russian gas.
És vannak olyan pontok,
There are some points that are clearly against Hungary's vital interests and that we have to veto. Such was the oil, such would be the sanctions on Russian gas, which they can't create because of us, and now there are again plans for the sanctions.
At the same time, an article about the mobilization in Ukraine, which allegedly seriously threatens ethnic Hungarians living in Transcarpathia, appeared in another online edition, Magyar Hírlap. It quotes Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó.
Not to mention that, in addition to Ukrainians, Hungarians also die in this war, as Hungarians living in Transcarpathia are also conscripted into the Ukrainian army. We have seen some footage in the past few days of how brutally this sometimes happens. Peter Szijjártó, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Hungary, from an article of the Magyar Hírlap publication.
There are also many reports on the internet and social networks about summonses and mobilization in Transcarpathia. This video shows 2 law enforcement officers detaining a man, while a woman says in Ukrainian, "What are you doing? He is not a criminal." In fact, the video looks more like a measure to detain an offender, but the author claims online that this is supposedly a mobilization process. It is worth noting that Hungarian publications write about conscription into the Ukrainian army in Transcarpathia, that they are massively recruiting Hungarians. It is true that about 12% of the population in the Transcarpathian region is Hungarians, but many also received Hungarian passports, which were distributed by Hungarian missions in Transcarpathia. Thus, some residents have both Ukrainian and Hungarian citizenship. Since the beginning of full-scale war in Ukraine, mobilization continues. People with military experience are drafted into the army, while everyone else is summoned to the military registration and enlistment office for verification.
Mobilization began on February 24th last year and is continuing all the time. There are no waves of mobilization. In most cases, citizens today are summoned to territorial enlistment offices in order to clarify military registration data. The decision to mobilize a citizen is made after a medical commission concludes that he is fit for military service. Roman Horbach, head of the personnel department of the headquarters of the Ground Forces Command of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, at the briefing.
But why Hungarian publications, supposedly financed by political forces, would want to create publicity about this topic is another question. It can be assumed that this is happening before the negotiations on the next package of sanctions against Russia, against which the government of Hungary stands and does not want to break economic ties with Russia. Reported by Roman Smoler, UATV News.